Hey y'all, we back with another episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville. We are back at the scene where Dr. Francis was talking to Tiffany and Lewis and saying that their marriage is not what it seems to be. He basically let them know he says when your game is discovered, you play a game of not playing the game. Once you own the game to be your reality, it is no longer a false game. It is a part of you, and you will act it out however you will act it out. And then Lewis says, so you trying to say our marriage is an act? And he let them know that he was a little concerned about their interaction yesterday, their interpersonal relationships or whatever. And here go Lewis and Tiffany in their confessionals. They're basically like, they don't know where he got his degree from. Who is he to judge our marriage? He's only known us for 24 hours. They doing way too much. Okay, get the fuck out of here. You did the same thing to Marceau and Letitia, critiquing their marriage. Y'all had so much to say about their marriage, but now the heat is on y'all. Y'all finding it to be a problem. Although Tisha and Marceau do have a questionable marriage, but moving right along. So they wake up the next morning. Marceau's cooking breakfast for everyone. They're in the kitchen. And walks Tiffany and Lewis, and they start talking about what happened the night before. Tiffany and Lewis, well, more Lewis was like, he's concerned that Dr. Francis is making assumptions about their marriage. He's in denial. He knows how it feels now, so he decides to apologize to Letitia and Marceau about, them giving critique on their marriage or giving them advice about their marriage. Here goes Tisha and Marceau and said that Lewis is not willing to listen. Marceau said at least he will listen. He's there and at least he will listen or try to listen, to Dr. Francis and his advice. So Tisha was saying, that marriage is hard, but they're willing to work on it, how they love each other. But I noticed that every time Tisha's talking, Marceau always has this look on his face like, what is she going to say? Or he looks very disinterested in what she has to say. He's never engaged when she's talking. I'm going to observe a little more. It's just my observation, but do y'all notice that? Then come then Kimmy and Maurice walks in. They're at the table talking. Kimmy come at them again, like, y'all are not willing to take advice. Like, this is a man that's been doing this for a long time. He's making observations, and it's like y'all are so closed off to getting advice from Dr. Francis. And Lewis, here he go with his philosophy talk. He always has an answer for everything instead of sitting back and listening. What they also checked him on was how, his answers, his comebacks, and his energy is off, which makes them feel like, he don't really want to hear what they got to say. He says he received it, but I don't think he receives it because he want to say and do what he want to do in his marriage. Tiffany, she barely had anything to say, but their team, they going to stick together in their marriage and play the game, as Dr. Francis said. Also, did y'all notice that the Scotts had on these T-shirts? At first, I thought they was promoting something for the Scotts. And then I think Tisha said something about those were shirts that Dr. Francis gave to them to wear. So not Tisha. So Tiffany and Lewis already checked out. They was like, we ain't really feeling this, because the spotlight was on them. Also, Marceau goes in his confessional and says, so Lewis wants to apologize for critiquing their marriage. And because Dr. Francis was doing it to him, he wants to apologize. So he says he's not going to accept, he'll accept his apology, but the best thing for him to do is change. Well, I want you to take your own advice and stop embarrassing your wife on national TV. Show us the change behavior, Marcel. Show us the change behavior as well. So Melody meets with Martell's mother, Miss Marlene. She wants to create a better relationship between them because she hasn't talked to her for a couple of years, I want to say. And she wants to sit down and see where they can go moving forward. So Miss Marlene walks in, and I was going to say something about her outfit, but then I decided not to because when I retire, I plan on being on somebody's island on the beach in a two-piece selling beads or whatever to tourists, okay? So I'm going to just shut the hell up on Miss Marlene. Y'all take it. So Melody started the conversation with, do you ever feel like I disrespected you or said anything negative about you? Miss Merlene said no. So Mel goes into talking about, the last time that they talked, they stopped talking because of a text that Melody sent to, I guess, Miss Merlene. Um, so Melody asks Miss Merlene, has Martell ever come to you and say, I got this wife and she don't ever do nothing? She pauses and says, no, he, I said it. Then she says, Martell had her spoiled. Girl, I mean, ma'am, I mean, lady, what is you talking about? She basically was saying, well, the text is here, y'all can read it. Um, and do you know Miss Marlene was still like, well, you were spoiled. My son did everything. Was you in the household 24/7? Did you see what Martell did 24/7? You only noticed that Melody laid around? Like, really? She had the nerve to say, Miss Marlene had the nerve to say, because she had kids, she became lazy. What? I can't believe this lady is saying that. But you know what I'm getting? I'm getting she has to be right. What she say it goes. What she say it is what it is. A lot of what Martell does. Yeah, that's a lot of what Martell does. So Miss Marlene says it's a new day. She said what she said, but it's a new day. So they decided that, Mel is gonna unblock her, and they're gonna try to do the things that they used to do, and to get along for the grandchildren. So, Dr. Francis and his wife set up a little, I'm gonna call it a bonfire. Sit around so they could sit around the fire and have an exercise where they have to tell the truth. And the first couple he calls up is the Whitlows. So he asks Lewis, have he had any losses? He asks all of them, but Lewis had a loss and Tisha had a loss. We'll talk about Tisha in a minute. So Lewis says, it's easy to get over. He said, I ain't asked you about if it's easy to get over. I asked you, how did you deal with it? So he said Lewis said he isolated himself, but he's glad he got family to deal with it. And he gets emotional. Um, we see tears running down his. Dr. Francis says, there's the humanity. He's shown humanity. The philosopher is sitting his ass down. That's my words. Sitting his ass down and his humanity. And I felt like Lewis should have just lived in that moment, but he didn't. Of course, he had to have something to say, about how those things are not missed. It's inside of him, but it's what made him who he is today, or whatever. Then he goes to his confessional. What he is on the outside is not what he is on the inside. Like, you contradicting your goddamn self right now. So we turn to Tisha. Tisha talks about how her friend passed away. She just found out her friend passed away, and she puts her eyes down. There's still no tears, but okay, maybe the camera's too far away, but I still see no tears. Then Marcel jumps in and start talking about what's going on, what happened with the friend. He's doing all the talking. It's unfortunate the way that they said she passed away. It was just sudden. She just had a baby and she has a 3-year-old, and her husband really loved her. It's really sad. It's really sad. I really feel for the husband. I remember the husband from when Maurice and Kimmy got married. He was confessing his love about his wife, how he married the perfect wife. So I definitely remember him. Um, it's just unfortunate. Oh my God. So basically, they wrapped up the whole, bonfire with, life is short, so you have to really tap into your loved ones and do things that's gonna make y'all relationship special. And we tap into this quick scene with Martell and his mother, and him acting like he doing business, and the mother talking about how she talked to Melanie. I really don't have much to say about that scene. It was unnecessary. Then we have Tiffany and Lewis in their room. They having a conversation. She's talking about how he opened up. He gets emotional again, talking about his dad and how his dad wasn't there for him. But once he had a conversation with his dad showed up to his games as an adult. So Lewis' whole point is, they're busy trying to do a business, busy trying to raise the kids, and they got to learn how to balance that, because somewhere it's gonna lack, somewhere it will lack. So Dr. Francis catches up with Tisha and Marcel. He sits down with them. He said that in his confession, he said that Tisha is in a place where she wants them to merge together, that'll be beneficial for their marriage, but Marcel is going to need a little more work. Anybody surprised by Marcel needing, more work? Marcel goes on to say how, their marriage was fine up until the last 4 years because of outside forces and how they were critiqued about their marriage, but he claims that they still continue to be them. You continue to be you, but Tisha was changing. So Tisha goes on to say that God put her husband in her life for a reason. She should listen to her husband and trust her husband. She don't know if it was her being obedient or submissive. What? Do you see this face Dr. Francis is making? I made that same face when she said that she didn't know if it was obedience or being submissive. And then she goes on to say that, and Dr. Francis said, well, if God sent you this man, but you didn't know if it was obedience or submissive, but you made the decision to listen to your husband, is what you're saying, right? She says yes, and trust in him. Like Tisha, I don't think Tisha. I was just trying to get my thoughts together. I don't think Tisha believes what she say. I think Tisha wants to say what sounds right because you wouldn't be in therapy with Dr. Francis talking about your marriage and how he don't spend no time with you. If your man don't spend no time with you, that's going to put thoughts in your head. It ain't even going to take outside noise because you want to know why your husband ain't spending time with you and your children. Here's my philosophical thought. It ain't really mine, but here's what the saying is. People make time for what they want to make time for. And when you're in a marriage and you got to constantly beg your husband to spend time with you and the children, and then you alone, that's a problem. So I don't know why y'all keep saying, or Tisha, I don't know why you keep saying it's the outside forces. I'm sure him not spending time with y'all, because it ain't that much work in the world. It's just not that much work in the world. And here we go with Marcel jumping in. How he don't make decisions without her. He speaks to her. Dr. Francis was like, oh, you do? So Marcel goes on to talk about, to try to prove himself right or whatever. And Dr. Francis said, let me wrap this up. People make this mistake all the time. They argue the truth when you don't have to argue the truth because the truth stands by itself. And then they paying back to Marcel. He had this look on his face like, oh shit, I'm caught. Tisha looking all sad and whatever. But he see right through them too. He see right through them. Quick side note, as I mentioned earlier, did y'all notice how Tisha, when Marcel's talking, Tisha is engaged, but when Tisha's talking, Marcel is somewhere else. Like he's never looking at her in her face and listening to her talk. It's just weird. So anyway, we end the episode with Kimmy and Maurice. They're on the back patio eating food. This was a long day. And their conversation boiled down to Maurice always wanting to have sex. And Kimmy is like, how am I going to do that? It's impossible. So basically, Dr. Francis broke it down to like, when she says she need help around the house, help her. And then she becomes a person that you don't just want to have sex with. It's somebody you want to share yourself with. I just have a little side note on this. Like, I think these women, well, with the Scots, they bought into the man is the man and the woman is the woman. So you're supposed to go to work, take care of the kids, clean the house, wash the dishes, do the grocery shopping, do all this stuff, and the man just sit back and do what? Like we are in a different times. We are living in different times. You need two incomes to make a household run, unless you got a really, really good job. So I don't understand how Kimmy, especially Kimmy, bought into the whole the man is the man and the woman should do this. You know what I mean? I don't know how Kimmy bought into that. I don't know. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Again, thanks to my new subscribers. I really appreciate you watching my videos. Till next time, peace.